It's time for Southern Fried Baseball, presented by College Baseball Central. Hosted by Jake Mckeever as he talks everything SEC baseball and more.
Welcome in, College Baseball Central fans. Back here again as we're coming down that home stretch. Just 2 SEC weekends left. An exciting day in the SEC, or exciting weekend, if you will. Tons of upsets, tons of intrigue, tons of teases. Andrew, how are we doing this weekend?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Got to watch a lot of good baseball this weekend.
Yeah, there was a ton of good baseball on, good and bad, if you will.
Yeah.
Outside of SEC play, I got to see Cincinnati versus Kansas, which was good hitting, not very good bullpen. As you saw that one kind of play out the way that it did. Just an outrageously hitters-friendly game, if you will. Yeah. But let's start with the one that we got to see Thursday, if you will. One of them, which one was the one that got canceled Thursday that they moved?
No, there was only one Thursday game.
I thought there was 2, and then one of them moved to Friday.
No, we're entering that weird slate of 2 Thursday or 1 Thursday. 2 or like 1 Thursday now.
Interesting. So we'll start with the Texas-Arkansas series. Texas heads on the road for obviously their toughest matchup on the road all year. They get immediately swept by Arkansas Thursday, 9-0. Friday was just kind of, I think, the bottoming out point, if you will. And then Saturday, they played a lot better. They had some good hits, but in the end, they dropped the game. Like that's kind of as simple as it is for them. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Texas is only number 1 because of their resume, but do you think that this is a sign to come for the Texas Longhorns? Because this, like I said, they played Missouri on the road, who hasn't won a single game. They played Kentucky on the road, who might be the only team in the country that's tougher on the road than they are at home. And Mississippi State, who fired their coach. So 9-0, 6-1, 13-8. How are we feeling this weekend if you're Texas? We'll start with that before we jump into how great Arkansas is.
I'm feeling like that was our first true test and we failed at it. They got punched in the mouth on Thursday, punched in the chest on Wednesday or on Friday, and then they got kicked while they were down on Saturday. It was just, it wasn't a good weekend when you had Dylan Volantis giving up like middle fastballs that were going 400 feet.
Furthermore, it's not a good weekend when Dylan Volantis isn't pitching until game 3. You and I kind of talked about, maybe shutting him down. Texas didn't even really have a chance to use him in either of those first 2 games. But what is Texas going to do about that Sunday? Max Grubbs, gets chased in the 4th. Jason Flores last weekend wasn't very good. What do you do if you're Texas? Because I feel like a lot of the guys that you would have been like, you can throw Saunier. You can do this. Like a lot of their bullpen guys really took it on the chin this weekend, if you will.
I think you stick with Max Grubbs. I think it was just like nothing went right for Texas this week, that it was like, oh, wow, Max Grubbs even pitched bad. Like his SEC conference ERA is still pretty good. You just got to tough it out, or even go with, Thomas Burns got hit around too, but the guy that threw on Thursday that really impressed me, who was it? Cody Howard. Cody Howard
started games for him last year. I believe he was the Baylor transfer. He's never really found his role. He threw 53 pitches and 3 1/3, only 1 hit.
Yeah,
I'll say this about Ruger's start, because I went back and rewatched it 2-3 times just to make sure that I was seeing it correctly over the course of 2 different days. I felt like he was tipping. Like his sweeper, he came down really low.
Yeah, he was trying to show a lot of his, like they mentioned that on the broadcast, like, oh yeah, he'll show that lower arm slot. And I think like Arkansas was just ready on it. Like they scouted it perfectly in their pregame or week leading up to it, saying, hey, like Ruger, like, be ready on like 0-2, 1-2. He might drop down here.
They laid off on that pitch a ton, and they ambushed his off speed. I noticed they were sitting on it.
It was terrible. His off speed was terrible.
Yeah, he only had 4 strikeouts. And then Saturday, Mike and I were in the house for that one. Another really kind of great game. We had a little bit of a delay, like every other game that I go to in the SEC, which is a little bit funny. But, Luke Harrison gets that start, gets chased in the 4th. Big difference in the game for me was 9 walks for Texas, only 2 for Arkansas, and one of them was Aiden Jimenez at the back end. We'll be very negative on Texas still, and we'll kind of work it back with Arkansas. I mean, bonehead play after bonehead play for them. And here's the other part that was really kind of scary for me. Arkansas didn't even really play that good. They only had 6 runs, if you will, 6 hits too as well. So they only had 1 more than Texas. And sorry, I'm just going to text. And, they left a ton of guys on base too, if you will. But obviously the low point for that one was, what's his face? Casey Borba.
Yeah.
Not knowing how many outs there are. And Will Gasparino caving, if you will. Funny thing about it, for as much of a hothead, angry person as Sloss is made out to be, it wasn't Sloss that day. It was Max Wiener was pretty pissed off about the zone. You could hear that throughout. Yeah. And then one of their ops guys was really pissed on that 2-out one. Like, I was sitting right above the dugout, and it was weird. I kind of knew the game was going to go that way because when Arkansas was warming up, and obviously I'll do the PC version of this, but it was basically a lot of people are going to think last night was a fluke and show them why it's not a fluke. Show them why we're the best team in the country.
Yeah.
A little bit dirtier, if you will, but, they really did prove it. And I think it was the first time in a long, long time that Arkansas won a game that they didn't play their best at. I feel like in the SEC, everything's had to go right for Arkansas. But, Gage Wood battled. Like, he had really, really good stuff, 9 strikeouts, no walks. Gackle through 3 innings. I think he's got to work on just his command a little bit and being able to finish guys. And then Jimenez at the back end. It was an absolute perfect day if you're DVH in terms of how you set up that bullpen.
Yeah, I've been talking about, sorry, now I'm texting someone. We've been talking about Gage Wood, how important he is to this Arkansas rotation, and Gabe Gackle. Gabe Gackle is phenomenal. They struck out 15 guys. That Wood, Gackle to Jimenez. Even if you only have to use Aiden Jimenez in 2-inning situations, because that's Saturday or Friday game 2. That was an all-out win. You were trying to do everything you had to do to go out and secure the series. Gage Wood, he only threw 57 pitches. He easily could have gone.
He's on a pitch limit.
Dave Van Horn. I've been hearing that they're just trying to amp him up, and then SEC tournament. Hopefully they'll have him ready for 75, 90 pitches. Then regionals, 90 to 105. And then super regionals, he's fully 110%. And
they did that with Hagen Smith at the beginning of the year, last year, if you remember.
Yes, I remember that. It was very annoying to watch because he's out here striking 15 guys out on I don't know, not 15, but he's striking 10 guys out on 80 pitches, and you're like, what? Just let him go one more. You're up 15-0.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. Reese Robinette, he obviously had that really big breakout game on Saturday. He's a guy that's really waited his turn because, he was behind Rocco Pepe at the beginning of the year, and then when Rocco Pepe goes down, they move Cozell into second, and then Reese Robinette, he's in Arkansas. He's from Kennett, which is just right across the border from Arkansas, if you will. Mm-hmm. And he just absolutely has great at-bats, I think, all weekend. It was just a dream scenario. Logan Maxwell, I don't think, played any of the games all weekend, so they're kind of working to get him back a little bit. But
something I realized from this Arkansas lineup on Friday and Saturday, it was really 3 or 4 guys doing damage. You had the Loy brothers, who ESPN was just we'll talk about it later with the whole
they did it. The A, every time I watch Arkansas, and it's not their local broadcast, it's like the Aloy.
Yes, we'll talk about it when we get to that, another series. It was very unprofessional in that way. I understand. Trust me, I love the Aloy brothers. They are phenomenal hitters. But like you got to remember, this was a matchup between two top 10 teams, and the number one team in the country was getting their butts handed to them. But that was besides the point. Thursday, Friday, it felt like there was multiple guys in the lineup doing stuff. Riedell had the home run on Friday that I watched.
They're a big international team. I know Hawaii's not exactly. I mean, I know Hawaii's still in the U.S., but I mean, it's an island nation with its own kind of national identity, if you will. Yeah. Irondale's from Australia. Davalon's from Quebec. Which, by the way, Irondale had probably one of the coolest cleats I'd seen in a while. They had like kangaroos on them. You know, I'm a big fan of kangaroos. But as we kind of transition back to Texas, what are they going to do with that lineup? Because I feel like Borba is kind of playing his way out. And I know that they've had injuries from Mendoza, and I know that they've had injuries from Rodriguez. But when ideally Mendoza comes back and plays second base, and they move Rodriguez back to third, what do they do with that DH role? Because I feel like it's just kind of becoming a void. And
It'll become a matchup thing. I mean, Schlossnagle will probably make it a matchup thing. I mean, Borba is like, we talked about it. This weekend wasn't his best. He kind of just like mentally checked out in game 2, and then
he's got a really like he throws his front shoulder out. I've noticed when he's got his timing messed up. Like, do you remember how you talked about it a few weeks ago with Bear Harrison?
Mm-hmm.
They have eerily similar swings, except Casey Borba is obviously not 6'4" catcher. He's built like an infielder. But they really got to figure out what they're going to do with that, because Jonah's playing absolutely out of his mind right now. Which, by the way, I had a few Arkansas fans tell me that he was trying to fight him in the parking lot.
Respect.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I told one of my friends who played college baseball that I was going to Arkansas, and he said, and I quote, "I hate those fuckers."
Arkansas or Texas?
He hates Arkansas. Like, they are the most brutal fan base in, I think, a good way. And I mean that as no disrespect to Arkansas.
Well, right now is a good time. I am going to be at LSU Arkansas this week, so
my gosh, that one's going to be.
I am very excited. I'm going Friday and Sunday because Saturday I might have a little prior engagement, but
Micah might be going up to Bama. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But what do they do when Baloo comes back? Because that's where I think it gets really interesting. Because Baloo's not as athletic as Tommy.
You put him at DH. You put him at DH. The less of an injury factor. Like, the only thing you got to worry about is him swinging the bat and running the bases.
It's his hand. And I think it's his topside hand. Let me double check that. Give you a second. But I mean, do you slide in Cole Chamberlain?
He's been a roller coaster too. I mean, I get he's a freshman, but like,
Max Baloo might return OU weekend if Texas has something to play for, but we talked about how they don't. Let me see if they have a picture of it. No, I mean, he's not wearing a cast. That's the other thing. It's like his hand's out. But bad weekend for Texas. They play a red-hot Florida team coming to town this next weekend. They are going to have to figure out who they are. The good news for them is they played a really easy light road schedule, so they're in that echelon of, like, I know you and I have talked about South Carolina. Like, they punished South Carolina a few years ago because they had a bad road schedule. Like, Texas has a good road schedule on paper. I think you could just thank Greg Sankey for giving you a good road schedule that you can stack up these wins. Again, as Tennessee's shown, there's no guarantee that you are going to win at home. So credit to them for taking care of business at home. But again, the road schedule, the good news is they're not going to play anybody. They're not going to play on the road the rest of the year. I think they go to OU.
I mean, you go to you have Florida, you go to OU. I mean, they've probably clinched a regional, or they have clinched a regional host.
Can I do the ultimate not jinx of all time?
Please.
They're up 2 games on Arkansas with 6 to go. There's no way they choke that, right? Arkansas has LSU.
Yeah.
And I think LSU can backdoor in it if Texas goes winless and LSU sweeps.
They need help from everyone playing Georgia because I think Georgia has a tiebreaker over them.
A&M plays Georgia. Georgia has 9 losses. Texas has 6.
And LSU has 9 as well, I think now. Or 10.
They have 10.
10. They have 10.
Tennessee is completely out of it at 11, I believe.
They got 10 too. Unless
No, they
got 10. 37 and 10. Or they're 14 and 9. 14 and 9.
14 and 9. No, they're not 14 and 9. I got it right. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Or
Tennessee
14 and 10, my bad.
Yeah.
14 and 10.
Yeah, they sit at 14 and 10. They're going to have to figure that out, by the way. But there's no chance, and maybe we should clip this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no chance Texas blows this 2-game lead to Arkansas with Arkansas having LSU. Texas playing Florida, no you. 0 chance.
Arkansas have the week after that.
Arkansas has LSU, like I said, on the road at the box, and then they have Tennessee.
Tennessee
at home. The Tony Vitello. So go ahead and crown Texas the champions of the SEC. They've already clinched a first-round bye, which I think is really the most important part, if you will. But let's go ahead and move on into our kind of
biggest or first-round bye in the SEC.
Yeah, double round bye. Probably the best series of the weekend. The Alabama Crimson Tide dropped game 1 on a masterclass from J.D. Thompson. Come back with a Riley Quinn quick gem. And this one was actually a little bit funny because Mike and I went down and did post-game. So Mike and I were trying to, figure out the standings and everything. And he goes, yeah, when Vandy goes final, Vandy, like, you'll be in first and I'll be in second. Caleb will be in third. And then we come back up. I think you had texted me, like, Vandy walked it off. And I was like, what? They get all with 2 outs, by the way. Brody Johnson with a 2-out knock. And then Braden Holcomb with the walk-off home run off of Costin Osmer, who shut him down the day before.
So Braden Holcomb in the last 3 innings of that game, he had a triple, home run.
I'll say this. Connor Fennell, through 3 innings, was like the best pitcher I think I'd ever seen this entire year. Like,
he's phenomenal. His
motion was just like a work of art. At one point, he had more outs recorded than balls to hitters. Then the bullpen on the back end of that, Hawks, Brian Green, they combined to kind of finish it out after Guth goes down. I thought Zane Adams pitched extremely, extremely good. He threw 100 pitches, 6 innings.
Yeah.
They're going to feel really good about him going forward. And I know that I had a very, old takes exposed tweet, but the formula of Adams to Oz is going to do wonders, I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you told me that Zane Adams left the game with a 7-2 lead, or what was it when he left? It was 7-2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or no, 7-2. If you told me that Zane Adams left the game with a 7-2 lead, I would have been like, oh, okay, Alabama won the series. Yeah, they got it. They went to Oz in the 9th. They probably went to Heiberger in the 8th. They shut it down. And then the bats woke up for Vandy. And we've talked about that. It's like the bats for Vandy have needed to wake up. It feels like it's either they're hot from the beginning or they're just cold through the rest of the day.
Yeah, they'll score 4 in the first and then kind of put it to bed.
Yes,
but
now we've seen this back-to-back.
I'll use the Arya Gerson quote: "Those who doubt Tim Corbin are going to be disappointed." This was just an absolute masterclass of a weekend for Tim Corbin.
Yes,
Brody Johnson's ABs, I think, have gotten really, really high quality. Even when he gets out, I've noticed there's not a lot of wasted ABs from Brody Johnson as he's kind of matured. He hasn't had his freshman moment at all, if you will. Here's Alabama right now, by the way. 2 of 3 at Auburn. 2 of 3 against Mississippi State. 2 of 3 Sunday salvage against LSU. Swept Missouri. 2 of 3 to Vandy. Do they start getting near the 3 line?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about hosting not too long ago. Again, they need 1 win in the next 2 weekends. to feel 100% in.
Yeah, I think they got Florida, who's scolding hot next week.
Georgia, but it's Georgia on the road.
Georgia on the road. We put our pick'ems in. I won't spoil that, but
you can spoil it.
All right, so I went Alabama this weekend.
I went Bama too.
Yeah, I think Bama, like the way they pitch at home has been very good, and it feels like they only get outside of themselves is if someone like comes into their house and like disrupts it. At home this year, that's only happened once. And that was against
OU played them tough, but OU and Bama played very similar styles.
But it was Tennessee. Tennessee came in and just whoa, like after game one, everyone's like, whoa, okay, yeah, Bama's gonna do this. And then they just like, nope, we're playing our style of baseball. Like
yeah.
We're gonna shut you down, fuck you. Like, yeah.
It was the reverse what they did the year before. But I'll say this about Justin LeBron, because I know that he's kind of really cooled off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can find his advanced stats, because he has a glaring hole in his swing at the moment. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, ridiculously high whiff rate. Yeah. Fastball, 750 slugging percentage. Off speed, 360 slugging percentage regardless of speed.
Like, so this year he's slugged the ball much better.
You know who it reminds me of?
Who?
RJ Austin at Vandy last year.
Yes. He starts getting a little bit of power, starts spraying the ball over the park, and then once SEC play comes in, it's just cool down.
Yeah, and he's got to get that fixed sooner rather than later, because like I said, he's almost been the most untalked about player ever in the past 3 weeks. And I'm a big Justin LeBron guy, not hopping off the Justin LeBron train. But he's got to figure that out. Obviously, I'm sure the coaching staff's working with it, is because if two dipshits who have a podcast at 7 on a Monday figured it out, I'm sure that they know about it. I think this is a really big prove-it series for Bama, just from a mental standpoint. Because the only team that any team that's had half of a semblance of a pulse, they've immediately folded. Obviously, that Missouri one helps a little bit. But this doesn't feel like it was the same team that went to Jacksonville. It doesn't feel like it was the same team that went to College Station. Bama really has to figure it out in a hurry. For Vandy, before we kind of move on into that next one, are they the most confusing team in college baseball?
Yeah, it feels like I keep on trying repeating myself, trying to it's
the second you give them credit, they flop, and then you're like, all right, I'm out on Vandy. They do good.
That's what I thought was going to happen this weekend. I'm like, you know what? Outside of JD Thompson, I don't trust this pitching staff on weekends. Then JD Thompson goes out there, he dominates. Bama takes game 2, and I'm like, okay,
this is
my head
two back-to-back good starts for him. By the way, I would like to point that out.
For Thompson?
Yes.
No, last week he got shelled. I thought
last week was when he had the 14 Ks.
That was the week before.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Last week they went to
then about them being hot, cold, hot.
Yes, literally. Yeah. Last week they go Ole Miss. He gets shelled there. JD Thompson did solidify that. Like I told you, I texted you this. I'm like, go watch that 6th inning. That 6th inning was first round, top.
Oh, it was insane.
Insane.
But he's been so up and down, I should say. But again, Vandy's going to be that whole cut line of Auburn, Vandy, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. It was Bama, but they've kind of played themselves out. Those are going to be mid-major 2s or really tough ACC 1s, I think. But we got to move on. As we've spent almost 30 minutes talking about those first 2 teams. The series that I was at Sunday, Ole Miss drops 2 of 3 to Oklahoma. They win that Sunday salvage. Fun fact, Ole Miss is undefeated on the road on Sundays. They always get that Sunday salvage. Friday night, it was Kyson Witherspoon, 7 innings, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts. They did just enough offensively as they only scratched across 3 hits. Saturday, they won 5-3, 3-run first. Easton Carmichael had that big home run. And again, Cade Crossland pitched tremendous as well. Had a ton of strikeouts. He had 8 of them. And then on Sunday, with Mike and I in attendance, Ole Miss really just peppered the ball around the ballpark. Their 2-strike hitting was pretty good, which ironically is pretty crazy because they struck out 14 times, but all their runs were scored with 2 outs. Mason Nichols gets chased in the second. Morris comes in, throws 3 2/3. Coach Banco has to move him into the rotation, right? That feels like it's the given of givens is Morris moving in for Nichols. Because this is 2 bad weekends with Nichols. Morris has been Elliott Morris. He's got to slide into that Sunday role. That's what they were setting them up for today, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a little flip-flop. You're going to have just Mason Nichols follow Mason Morris next weekend.
You don't think they do the Elliott?
No. Or to be honest, if they play a midweek tomorrow, we can see Mason Nichols even throw in the bullpen there.
Yeah, they threw McCaslin, and McCaslin threw on Sunday too as well.
Yeah, so they might not have a midweek tomorrow then.
I think they have. I'll have to go in and see.
They don't.
No, they don't, because they're going straight to Mississippi State. Ole Miss. Hayden Federico came in pinch hit, had that single on Sunday. I've been really impressed with him, just accepting that new role that he has. Luke Chang, I think, plays tremendous defense. The hitting, again, I think it's good enough. Mason Hamlin, I think, at first base has been a really nice addition with Dayton Talkie being out. And then again, Easton Carmichael, still Easton Carmichael. I will say this. Jackson Walk at the top of the order might be the most nonchalant, fluid guy I think I've ever seen. He had just nonchalant triples. He had one play where he got thrown out, and he juked the first baseman out and then swim moved. He ended up being called out, but it was just a really athletic play. I think OU and Ole Miss are the 2 most underrated teams in the SEC. Would you stand by that?
Yes, I would stand by that. I think these teams are very solid teams. I think they're going to both host. I really like both these teams. It feels like we're the only ones talking about them.
Especially OU. I feel like OU is a top 10 team.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a top 10 team on Friday and Saturday. It's just they still need to figure out, I think, Sunday a little bit more.
Yeah, when Malachi's good, Malachi's really good. When Malachi's not good, they chase him in the third, which is kind of what happened.
Yeah, Crossland's been very good in that Saturday spot. Kyson is Kyson.
Yeah, he threw 4 2/3. And then after that, it was, a complete cluster to try and get those final throughout. It's a really good lineup, I think, for you. That's one thing that I think doesn't get talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Willis in the 9-hole, I think, is really scary. And then for Ole Miss, they have a lot of guys, I think, just hard-nosed Bianco-style ball players, like Judd Uttermark, Luke Hill, Will Furness. There's a lot of guys that, wouldn't probably start at other SEC schools, but are just kind of grinded out, have really, really good at-bats. Yeah. I really like Ole Miss. It'll be a really interesting one with Mississippi State this weekend. That one, I think, is going to be an absolute hornet's nest. But again, OU's doing enough to hang in there. They sit at 13-11 in the SEC. Texas and Kentucky to go. It's an interesting one, I think. Probably the biggest surprise of the weekend for a sweep. Georgia took on the Missouri Tigers up in Columbia. The road woes almost followed Georgia up there as they were down or tied at some point in those games very late.
Yeah, they're tied 2-2 going to the 9th on Sunday, Saturday. We talked about, you asked the question on Thursday last week, Georgia's going to run roll them, right? I'm so shocked. I understand they didn't have Rylan Saborowski, but just
it was an anti-Georgia game because Brian Curley, Colton Smith, and even Leighton Finley shoved the bullpen, which had been overused at some point.
Yeah,
shoved.
It was an inverse Georgia weekend.
An inverse Georgia weekend. The Bats obviously didn't travel up to Columbia. They really missed Ryland Zabrowski, I think a little bit more than probably anybody would have given them credit for.
Yeah.
I don't think he how long do you think that is? They slid Trey Phelps in there, by the way.
What do you mean?
How long do you think Zabrowski's out for?
I think they just held him out this weekend. I think he could have went.
They just wanted to be careful with it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I can double check on that.
What are the odds Missouri loses these final 6? It's A&M and Mississippi State, 2 of the hottest teams in the country, 2 of the teams that need wins, like
100%. I think no matter
Baltimore
what,
like Wire kids.
I think no matter what, though, I am taking Missouri to beat Mississippi State next week. Yeah, I'm not going to take Mississippi State to sweep. I'm going to take at least Missouri to get one of those games.
I saw somebody on A&M's Twitter that said that would be the most A&M thing for them to beat LSU.
And then just drop 2 out of 3 to Missouri.
Even 1. They really need 1. They really need all 3. Because if they win all 3, I would say they're 70% in, and then you can go to Georgia and just like win 1, and you'll be fine. And I'm not sure how much Georgia is going to play for it. We'll talk about that one in 2 weeks. I think that's a really tough matchup for Georgia. What's your percentage?
I would say for them to go 0-30, 5%. 5%.
I was going to go 90.
Oh, no, like for them to win a game?
Yes, like for them to go winless. It's 90% they go winless.
Yeah, 95% they go winless. Yes.
Okay. Some notes on Missouri. Kerrick Jackson's buyout. He was signed to a 5-year contract at the start of last season. It's ridiculously high.
He's staying. I think he's staying now. From what I heard, the athletic director's comments last week kind of reassured the baseball program that there aren't going to be any changes, that they are going to get the proper funds and NIL to compete within the next 2 years. But I wouldn't be surprised if a Missouri alumni comes in and just says, hey, we need to win now. I want this, and this done.
Yes, I think that's what's going to have to happen is they're going to have a completely go in. The money, like, hey, the money that you would have spent on a coach, you would have spent on us, if you will. I think that the one thing, though, is they didn't have a lot of help and they had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, they've been banged up all year. It's like every weekend we go to the availability report and it's like theirs is like a laundry list. South Carolina, laundry list.
What do you think of them bringing Ian Loesch out of the bullpen?
I've talked to 2 SEC coaches about this. 2 SEC coaches that have had struggles against Ian Loesch. I think it's so dumb because he's proven himself. Like, yeah, he struggled in the SEC this year, but it's like that whole Missouri team has struggled. I think like when it comes down to the tournament, I think like that first game, since it's single elimination, you have to throw him.
Yeah, but I thought that was weird, by the way, that they brought him out of the bullpen.
Well, how about Sam Horn?
Yeah, Sam Horn looked, Kellenbrink. Yeah, Brady Kellenbrink. I think he looked really good. But again, we're the podcast that talks the most about Missouri. Georgia, I think, obviously was just looking ahead. Nothing really too glaring for them. But we'll move on to probably the biggest shocker of the weekend. Mississippi State sweeps Kentucky outright, 14-4, 6-5, 6-1. I wouldn't say Saturday or Sunday were all that competitive. This now moves their win streak up to 4 straight since firing Chris Lemonis. Do you think they lose again? They play Ole Miss, North Alabama, Missouri.
I think they will lose again, but I'm very excited for this weekend. I wish I could where's that game this week? Starkville?
It's in Starkville.
I wish I can get up to Starkville to watch game 1.
I'll say this. Chris Lemonis said that Justin Parker had full control of the bullpen, and the decisions that he did the last 3 games show that is a bold-faced lie.
Yes.
Like
100%.
that was just the way that he did that Saturday game, which I mean, it was good baseball for Mississippi State. They relaxed, they had fun. It was awesome to see. It was one of the greatest things I'd ever seen. It was like everything that we had talked about with them in the past just completely went out the window.
I mean, yes. I mean, it all starts with it all started this past Tuesday when they just murdered Memphis, but then you just get quality after quality after quality from it was just amazing to watch. And
Joe
it was
Powell, I know that he was probably one of our Southern Fried Baseball snubs of the weekend. He had a tremendous weekend.
Michael O'Brien robbed a home run. New Orleans boy.
Two
home runs. Michael O'Brien, New Orleans boy.
Hunter Hines had a home run. This is a dangerous team, really. They're going to go somewhere and ruin somebody's regional, pretty fast.
Yeah, they are. Trust me.
For Kentucky, they're kind of sliding the wrong way. Obviously, they've lost the last 3. Do you start to worry about them because now they have to go 4-2 across their next SEC weekends, and they have Oklahoma and Vanderbilt?
No, I mean, oh wait, they have Oklahoma and Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm worried about them. I thought they're going to win the series.
I thought they were too. They would have been in such a good position if they would have taken 2 of 3.
Yeah, I mean, I was so disappointed. I mean, it just McKay wasn't good.
There's still some weird stuff with that lineup. I want to point that out, by the way.
Yeah.
McCoy, he's played Kuntz at third.
Yeah.
It's just an odd. I think they're trying to just figure out anything that'll work. And I don't think it's an overt coaching situation like we talked about at Louisville or some of these other places. I just think for a feel, I don't think he has a lot of feel for this roster. I know that's weird to say for somebody that's such a player's coach in Menge, and there's so many guys that are very accepting of roles. It's just a weird kind of hodgepodge of teams, of players. They have 10 or 12 players I feel really good about, and they just can't seem to figure out that formula for them.
Yeah. I mean, I love the fans, the Mississippi State fans that said Nick Mingione failed his interview.
Yes, I did see that.
Which I don't think he was ever going to be taking an interview there, maybe. It's very depressing of how bad that Kentucky is. It feels like it's a mess. And I can't even explain it correctly.
I think they're at a tipping point and an inflection point. I think that's the one thing about them. This season, they've shown flashes that they've wanted to be a good enough team to be a regional team, but at other times it feels like they don't. They play these kids. This isn't meant as an insulting way, but they took a lot of Island of Misfit Toys, chip on our shoulder. We're gonna go out and prove ourselves. And at times they play maybe this is why these kids tend to end up at bigger schools. And then at other times, Luke Lawrence looks like the best second baseman in the country. Tyler Bell looks like the best shortstop. It's just when they put it all together, they're really good. But man, this was a bad weekend for them. They're leaving Starkville as quickly as they can.
Yeah, they probably were. Also, a little update on Saber Ryland. I just asked Olivia Sayre if he could have went this weekend. She said he could not have, but he's expected to return this season.
Interesting. What's season mean though? That's the other thing.
Probably next weekend.
But we'll move on to, in my opinion, the biggest shocker of the weekend. The Tennessee Volunteers dropped 2 of 3 to Auburn. This is now their 3rd straight home series that they have lost, by the way.
Yeah.
Weird weather weekend. Friday night, obviously, they start that game. Liam Doyle throws single-digit pitches, I believe.
No, he threw like 20, I think.
It was something very low. Game suspended due to weather. Pick it up Saturday morning. It's supposed to start at 10 a.m. delayed. Get the first game in. Start game 2. Suspended. Start game 2 Sunday morning. Play game 3 immediately after. Tennessee took that middle game 5-4. And the sandwich on the other side was a 6-1 victory for Auburn and an 8-1 victory for Auburn. What is going on with Tennessee?
Karma. Just, I mean,
so karma would imply that they were losing close games, and that's not what they're doing. They're just playing flat. You know what they're playing like? They're playing like, remember after A&M beat them and Tony said that they we're not the most talented team, and we've got a lot of guys playing like we're the most talented team. I think that's what's popping up with it.
I mean, like this whole week, like after that LSU loss on Sunday, this last week they just looked like flat against Northern Kentucky. They didn't like kick their butt or anything. I
mean, Ike Irish looked really good this weekend, I should say, but you get them on Sunday. What is up with their Sunday, by the way?
They went with Russell. They like solidified Russell back into the rotation. He got hit around again. This is back-to-back weekends where he just like wasn't good.
Snead really wasn't that good.
Snead hasn't looked solid the last 2 weekends. I think they should have went. I mean, I think this is me being a little like Tegan Kuhn's bias, but I think they should have went Kuhn's. I think they should have went Tegan Kuhn's on a.
Yeah, I mean, they just need. They're the opposite of Kentucky, where I feel like they need a change up, and they don't change it up.
No,
I don't know what they should do with Dean Curley. Like they moved Gavin Keelan to short. I thought that was a really odd situation. Their whole infield is just it's so weird because nothing they ever do works. Like, okay, we'll move Gavin Keelan to shortstop. Goes hitless. Okay, Dean Curley cost us games at third. We'll move him into the DH. Ariel doesn't hit good enough. Like, I think that they thought that they were going to get more from Manny Marin. They thought they were going to get more from Levi Clark. And obviously they still have an entire year to kind of prove themselves and fix themselves. But Joe Healy said this about A&M a month ago. Tennessee just sucks right now. They're not really pitching that good.
Yeah.
They're not really hitting that good. Like, they're not putting themselves into position to be successful. They just stink right now. And they have 2 weeks in Hoover to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it all started Friday, just like, why the heck do you start that game? It's like even Tony V's losing. Like Tony V is like, he mentioned it Sunday that he even lost in the he nearly lost a finger to Jay Johnson, the handshake line. It just feels like nothing's going right for him. By the way,
rules-wise, that is on their director of operations
to
present the lineups and present starting pitching. It is then on the home plate umpire to decide how much that they should play the game. Tennessee fans are going to argue that the home plate umpire should have stopped the game a lot sooner than they did. Critics of Tennessee are going to say that they probably should not have played the game to begin with or moved the game up.
No, they shouldn't have.
It was a awful weekend.
Yeah, I mean, also, me and Mark talked about this on the weekend rotation. Did you think that was a home run? Ike Irish's home run?
No, I did not.
It never left the park. But yeah, I mean, Chatterton's been looking solid. He dominated against Georgia Tech last week. Bounces back and gets the Sunday start this week.
I loved that, by the way. I feel like we'd been calling for that for weeks.
We have been. It's like
40 pitches, 3 innings, and then Cade Fisher to slam the door on the back end.
Yeah, it's like Cade Fisher's been struggling. What are they going to do?
That was the ultimate Auburn pitching. Yes. 3-3. I mean, obviously it was a shortened game, but 3-3-3,
But it also held that like Sam Dunn didn't throw Friday. He threw a bullpen.
Oh, there is one more note before we move on to our final game. Liam Doyle was ejected from game 1 on Sunday for 2 games. So what that means is that Liam Doyle could not pitch in the Sunday finale after he threw all those pitches before in game 1, and he cannot pitch this midweek.
Oh, no.
So really, really shout out to the SEC for taking a stand on Liam Doyle.
Dang it, he's going to miss Indiana State tomorrow?
I know. I wonder if he can even sit in the dugout.
No.
So he's going to chill at home?
Yeah, he'll chill in like their locker room.
In the facility.
Yeah,
Moving
can't be
on
inside.
to the last game of the weekend, the Texas A&M Aggies in 2 games on Saturday with a split take game 3 behind a Caden Sorrell home run. A real throwback weekend, if you will, for Texas A&M, and not in a good way. They get great starting pitching, and the hitting just disappears until Caden Sorrell comes up. Like I said, game 1 against Cade Anderson. Cade Anderson went 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 run allowed. 6 innings, 3 runs, 1 hit, 113 pitches. Ryan Prager throws 7 1/3. Weston Moss they go to. And then they bring in Ashton Larson to pinch hit against Weston Moss. And A&M counters with Caden Wilson, who slams the door for them. Ashton Larson is burned. Then game 2, it was a complete game shutty for Anthony Ianson. Cade McCoy and Luke Jackson were both burned as Luke Jackson threw 6 pitches, and it was a walk. And then on Sunday, it looked like it was A&M's day to lose as Hernandez doubled and Braswell scored on a play where the catcher couldn't find the ball. Hernandez would then score the next batter to Milam, where the third baseman dropped the ball. They chipped away, and then Hernandez homered again. And then probably the most controversial decision of the weekend. They go to Zach Cowan, who A&M tagged a little bit in the first. He's only able to record 1 out. LSU clearly played the matchup game. They go with Larson, who grounded out. They pinch hit Hernandez for Reeves to face Weston Moss. Did Jay Johnson overmanage this game?
Yeah, he outcoached himself. We talked about it literally from the A&M point of view, that they've outcoached themselves early on this year, and that's why they've lost games. This weekend, it was LSU outcoaching themselves. I mean, every time Jace Laviolette came out, he faced a different pitcher, it felt like, and
it did work out. It
worked out all the way till the 8th inning until
that still worked out. By the way, I would like to point that out.
It was like the shift. And he's an athlete.
He beats it completely outright. That was it. He was up to that point in his last 2 weekends, 1 for 26 with 15 Ks.
Yeah, I mean, he outcoached himself. I think Chase Shores was in there for a little longer than he should have been. I thought Chase Shores was great. Don't think he should have been in there that long. Connor Ware, he's been terrible in my opinion.
He faced 1 batter, gave up 1 hit.
Yeah, I'm looking at
Primo. I thought they should have left him a little bit longer.
I mean, I talked about it this week in an article about how they needed guys to step up, and then of course they throw all the guys that needed to step up, and they half-heartedly stepped up. It feels like just, I mean, it seems like, because we saw it against Tennessee, that teams are starting to see Zach Cowan better. Teams are starting to see just more Case and Evans. Like, that's why I like him as a reliever, but I think he'll be good as a starter. But Johnson outcoached himself by pitch hitting Hernandez. Like, that's the moment I knew they were going to lose.
It was such a weird decision, too, because I get that it worked out last weekend with Reeves. Oh, no, it didn't. Didn't he get out? Or he walked?
He got out. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was just such a weird decision. But I mean, for positives for LSU, they went on the road and they were in all 3 games.
Positive, you got a better outing from Anthony Ianson.
A better outing? That's the word that you're going to use on a guy who throws a complete game, 14 strikeout shutout.
He was dominant. He let the Aggie fans know. 112 pitches. LSU.
Here's the thing that I think, and again, I'm not around these kids every single day, so I don't really know. Why did they wait so long for Cowan? I felt like they should have brought in Cowan earlier.
I think Jay was hesitant. He was very hesitant.
But here's the part that was even weirder is once, like, why didn't they play the matchup further?
It's just, I don't think.
What are you doing, Micah?
What up, Micah?
I just came to say hi. I wanted to jump in. I'm a big fan.
Wait,
of
Micah,
Smoke.
you like my Tulane jersey?
That's actually sick.
It's the new one, yeah. Thanks for knocking off my jerseys.
You're welcome. I'm trying to make Jake mad. That's my new goal right now, Andrew. I think it's working.
A little bit. But
no, you just
they're playing them. They do just enough to win every single time. When their pitching stinks, from a starting pitching standpoint, they hit. What do they do with the lineup, by the way? Because I think Gavin Cash, everybody in the country would argue that they're better with Gavin Cash in the lineup. But they hit so much worse with Gavin Cash in the lineup. And it's not Gavin Cash.
No, I mean, it feels like they tried plugging in all these guys. I mean, we've talked about it. Bear Harrison struggled. I mean, Caden Sorrell is this kid's going to be such a star next year. You mentioned with Laviolette, he's been nothing. He had the one BS hit. But Gavin Cash, Ben Royo, Terrence Keel, they moved Terrence Keel back to the bottom of the lineup. Those are the guys that are going to have to keep it going, get it going, so they can dominate in SEC play.
Yeah, but I don't here's the part that's a little bit funny, is I don't like Sawyer Farr playing left over Gavin Cash. Benderup's had, I think, a little bit of a hole in his swing the past few weeks. I think he's got to kind of work it a little bit.
He had the good series against, who was it, South Carolina and Arkansas?
Yeah.
But then, he kind of came back to earth. He's a little all over the place. He has a huge hole in his swing. He kind of swings just like a golfer. They try and make him a left-handed version of or no. It's not, he's not a lefty. He's literally Richie Sexton, if for the old heads out there.
Yeah. John Carlos Stanton.
Yeah, see, they try and close him off and have his hands up, but he is all he's all upper body.
All top half. Yeah, all arms. The bullpen for A&M looks really good. Weston Moss flushed his bad outing, if you will.
Yeah.
They feel really good about Caden Wilson and Luke Jackson. That's been my toughest one. But, that's all 8 series, if you will. We're going to be back again on Wednesday.
You missed one.
Which one did I miss?
Florida and South Carolina.
Oh, I did miss that one.
I don't know if you wanted to talk pulmonary.
Yes. So we are getting conflicting reports around pulmonary. It's because I didn't play Saturday, and I was looking at Saturday's scores, by the way. I know I was forgetting one. We're getting conflicting reports on what pulmonary's plan is, if you will. Heard from a few players and people near players that they had told the team that they were getting fired, but I heard from somebody that's a much better source that there's a lot of turmoil. As of 7:55, pulmonary is still going to be the head coach. He has a very large buyout.
$5 million.
Yes. Monty Lee is when I want a friend like Monty Lee. Monty Lee gets a super cush job and then hires his best friend in the shittiest contract imaginable and then retires. That was probably the greatest one-off, if you will. But, in all seriousness, Florida takes game 1, 9-5. Florida takes game 2 behind a 16, 8th and 9th inning, 22-3. And then pulmonary does not come out for the final game to give out the lineup card as Florida drops that one 8-0.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned it perfectly. I thought we were going to have a little Vontae Davis.
Where he quits.
Yeah, he just quit on his team. I thought we were having was it the North Carolina coach Coach Brown that like he would go to his players after every loss, be like, you know what, like I'm retiring now, and then like North Carolina finally forced him to retire after the year for football.
He needed like a Brian Kelly. Like, have you ever seen that one where he was like talking about killing his players or something like that?
Yes.
Here's you a real question. I want you to take a deep breath and then answer it. Do you feel more bad for the players that have to play for Pulmonary, for Pulmonary himself? Because at the end of the day, Pulmonary is a national championship winning coach. He is going to be remembered long after he's gone as one of the best coaches. Who do you feel more bad for?
I feel like half and half bad. I feel bad for Pulmonary that he came out of retirement when he should have stayed retired probably, because like the final years at LSU were a mess for him. They just weren't competing at the national level that LSU is used to. He takes this job because obviously like money,
Spurrier
there.
Spurrier effect, I think is what.
Yeah, the Spurrier effect. And
like,
then
look, I'm better than LSU. I made LSU, not LSU made me.
No.
At the end of the day, I'll say this: he inherited a roster that lacked, I think, an edge and lacked a work ethic, and he brought in a pitching coach that immediately ran him into the ground. Every single pitcher has had regressive stats on paper. Every single pitcher has had regressive stats. I've had a few scouts tell me, because I was talking about him with the job, and I was like, Mississippi State was having to worry about tampering. Arkansas or South Carolina doesn't worry about tampering because they suck. And he said, on the contrary, Jake, he goes, somebody from that one is going to be the steal of the draft. I won't tell you who it is, but he said that someone on that team is going to be the steal of the draft. And it's the pitching coach that they all hate.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be interesting if Maneri does stay, because
how do you fix this?
Huh?
Like, if Maneri stays in your Pulmonary, how do you fix this?
You bring in someone that knows NIL and knows the transfer portal very well, and you go out and like you spend money, you pay money out of your own pocket to the NIL fund, you do whatever it takes to bring in like top players, and to go like you're gonna have to start wooing people away from Clemson.
Would you go there though?
Right now?
Yes.
No. I wouldn't go there unless I know like.
Would you go there for double the money of Tennessee?
I would go to Tennessee over South Carolina.
For half you'd go to Tennessee for half the money than South Carolina.
Yes.
LSU?
Yes.
Mississippi State?
Yes. I actually Who?
A&M?
Yes.
Florida?
Yes, yeah.
Arkansas?
Yes.
So that's 8. Texas?
Yes, yeah, you're working with
that's 9. Like, this is where does this job rank in the pecking order of the SEC?
It should rank top 10 because of the history South Carolina has. But I feel like I can say that about a bunch of SEC schools. But like
it's a better job than Missouri.
Yes. I mean,
is it a better job than Kentucky?
Yes.
Is it a better job than Vandy? No. Tennessee? No. Georgia? No. Don't give me that look. Georgia's one of the best jobs in the country.
Yes.
But
because of Wes Johnson, but yes.
Credit to Florida for killing what was left of South Carolina. I know that Pulmonary had said a few times that he felt like the guys were still fighting. I do not believe he said that on his radio show today.
Well, can we talk about the one thing about Pulmonary? He, like, the worst thing you can do to this Florida team is piss them off. What he did on Friday was so Bush League. He knew that the weather was coming in. He could have easily told his baseball ops, like, hey, like, let's try and push this tomorrow. He was trying to not face. He was trying every little possible thing to avoid Liam Peterson. And what does he do? he has to face Liam Peterson on Sunday. He has to face Liam Peterson and then get followed up by Pierce Coppola.
Bailey Barlow looked really good, by the way. Jake Clemente looked really good.
Yeah.
They are going to host.
Florida?
Yes.
Did you rank them?
I have them 25.
I have them 24.
They have to sit at 33-16, 11-12 in the SEC. They get Texas this weekend. I predicted them to win.
Starts this weekend.
They get Alabama.
Gainesville Regional starts this weekend.
If they go 4-2 over the next 2 weeks, that gets the SEC record to 15-15. RPI sits at 16. Non-conference RPI sits at 2. That would give them 13 wins over the RPI top 25. They have that would give them a winning record over the RPI top 50. They are 19-0 and no bad losses. 22-3 in non-conference. I think you give it to them.
Yeah, they could be the last national
bastion of SEC. The ultimate middle finger to all those shithole Big 12 teams.
Florida would be above a bunch of teams right now.
We'll talk more about Florida next week. I know that they're hot. Brody Donay is a weekend merchant.
Yeah, he's back.
Bobby Bowser's a great shortstop. But again, we really want to try and keep it under an hour. And like always, we went a little bit over. Andrew, thanks for coming on. Actually, I don't know why I did that. This is just as much your show as it is mine.
Well, thank you for having me on.
See you Wednesday on your own show.